Sir Isaac Newton, widely regarded as the most influential scientist in the world, was a highly respected polymath. His expertise spanned various disciplines including physics, mathematics, astronomy, natural philosophy, alchemy, and theology. His contributions in these fields played a pivotal role in shaping the modern era of scientific advancement and technological progress. The discoveries he made across multiple domains are a priceless legacy for humanity. Sir Isaac Newton's exceptional genius propelled advancement in mathematics and physics, establishing the groundwork for modern classical mechanics. His scientific insights dominated the understanding of the physical universe for the next 3 centuries, making him a key figure in the scientific revolution. However, as a person, he exhibited a multifaceted character throughout his life, displaying complexity in his personality. While Sir Isaac Newton was renowned for his immense focus and dedication to his work and scientific experiments, it is true that he also faced personal challenges stemming from a difficult and emotionally turbulent childhood. His upbringing, marked by resentments and scattered emotions, often left him feeling isolated and lonely. Despite his brilliance, Newton grappled with emotional instability throughout his life, sometimes teetering on the edge of emotional collapse. At times, he exhibited outbursts of violence and vindictiveness directed towards both friends and adversaries. These aspects of Newton's personal life highlight the complex and multifaceted nature of his character. Despite being an unconventional Christian, Sir Isaac Newton maintained a deep religious faith and had a constant fear of being accused of rejecting holy orders. Throughout his life, Newton experienced a journey characterized by both profound realization about the truth of the universe and challenging emotional complexities. He harbored negative sentiments towards women, possessed a volatile temper, and carried feelings of fear, resentment, and other intrinsic emotions. Sir Isaac Newton, a remarkable scientist with versatile talents, was not only a creative genius and a strict administrator, but also a sensitive human being and a meditative individual. However, his journey had a melancholic start marked by a sad and lonely childhood. Isaac Newton was born on Christmas Day of 1642, according to the old calendar used in England at that time. His birth took place in Woolsthorpe Manor, located near Grantham in Lincolnshire, England. However, his date of birth was later adjusted to 4th January 1643 in accordance with the Georgian calendar. His father, also named Isaac Newton, was a prosperous but illiterate farmer who passed away in October 1642, 3 months before his son's birth. Newton himself was born prematurely, and his small size as a baby was remarked upon by his mother, Hannah A. Scoff, who once mentioned that he could have fit inside a quart mug, approximately 1.1 liters. In January 1646, when Newton was just 3 years old, his mother married Barnabas Smith, the minister of the church at North Witham, a nearby village. She moved in with her new husband, leaving young Isaac in the care of his maternal grandmother, Margaret Scoff, at Woolsthorpe. As the child Newton grew older, he experienced the heart-wrenching reality of being separated from both his father, whom he had never known, and now his mother as well. The pain of their physical distance was magnified by the sight of the church steeple in North Witham, where his mother resided. From a tree, he could catch a glimpse of the place that held his mother, yet he was unable to reach her. This feeling of having his mother taken away by a mysterious stranger left a lasting impact on Newton, intensifying his sense of being orphaned. Unfortunately, Newton did not find solace and emotional connection with his grandparents either. He felt abandoned, deprived of maternal love and care, and struggled to form a strong bond with his grandparents. In particular, his grandfather, James of Scoff, was never mentioned by Newton in his later life, and James did not leave anything to Newton in his will. It is possible that this lack of recognition and emotional distance from his grandfather contributed to the resentment that Newton harbored towards him. James had drafted his will, when Newton was just 10 years old, further exacerbating the sense of detachment and resentment within the young Newton. After the death of Newton's stepfather in 1653, his mother Hannah, now a wealthy widow, returned to Woolsthorpe with her 3 children. However, despite being back in the same household, Newton and his mother were effectively separated for over 8 years. This prolonged separation from his mother is believed to have had a significant impact on Newton's mental well-being, contributing to the development of pronounced psychotic tendencies. He became intensely insecure and obsessively anxious, characteristics that would shape his personality. In this new living arrangement, Newton found himself in an extended family comprising his mother, his grandmother, a half-brother, and 2 half-sisters. However, there is little mention of his siblings in Newton's later life, suggesting a lack of close or meaningful relationship within the family. Newton, at the age of 11, had already become adept at retreating into the depths of his own mind, distancing himself from human contact. It is evident that Newton did not have a warm or harmonious rapport with his family members, as they were rarely mentioned in his later writings. The abandoned son not only possessed a volatile temper, but also nurtured deep grudge, willing to wait years for an opportunity to seek revenge against those he believed had wronged him. The young Newton held a strong dislike for his stepfather and harbored some resentment towards his mother for marrying him. It has been suggested by some scholars that Newton may have exhibited traits consistent with what is now known as Asperger's syndromes. Individuals with Asperger's syndromes often experience challenges in social interaction but may demonstrate above-average intelligence. They may excel in specific fields such as computer programming and science, while there is typically no delay in their cognitive development or ability to take care of themselves. Individuals with Asperger's syndromes may display intense focus or obsession on a particular subject, often discussing it extensively while showing limited interest in other topics. His mother, Hannah, recognizing the importance of education, was determined that Newton would receive a proper education unlike his father. In her absence, Newton was enrolled in a village school where he walked daily. When Hannah returned to Woolsthorpe, Newton, at the age of 12, started attending the free grammar school known as King's School in Grantham. Despite the town being just 5 miles away from his home, Newton opted to board with William Clark's family in Grantham. It is speculated that Newton's distant behavior towards his own family may have influenced his decision to lodge with Clark family. At King's School, the primary language of instruction were Latin and Greek, and it was during this period that young Newton's classical education began. Alongside grammar and literature, Bible studies held a significant place in the curriculum. Newton also had the opportunity to learn the Hebrew script. While the emphasis was on language studies, students also received some instruction in arithmetic. It is noted that instead of joining his peers in playtime, Newton preferred to engage himself in the creation of small items and wooden models. He had acquired a collection of tools such as saws, hatchets, hammers, and other equipment which he skillfully used to craft various objects. Newton's curiosity extended beyond his academic pursuit. He had a keen interest in kites and dedicated time to experimenting with different shapes and designs to discover the most efficient for sustained flight. Additionally, he indulged in creating lanterns using crumpled paper, which he would light with candles. These lanterns served as a source of light during his walk to school on dark winter mornings. Newton's inquisitive nature and hands-on approach allowed him to explore various subjects beyond the confines of traditional education. During his teenage years, Newton dabbled in various artistic pursuits such as sketching and poetry, although these interests did not persist for long. However, his love for books remained a constant. Despite Newton's keen interest in books and mechanical pursuit, his academic performance at school did not reflect his potential. According to his school reports, he was labeled as idle and inattentive. However, a pivotal moment occurred when Newton engaged in a physical fight with a stronger and more academically accomplished classmate, driven by a desire for revenge. Despite his physical disadvantage, Newton fought back fiercely and emerged victorious. This incident proved to be a turning point in his life. Motivated by the desire to excel and improve himself, Newton began to apply himself diligently to his studies and quickly rose to become the top-ranked and star student of the school. These school years brought some happiness to Newton's life. However, his mother, Hannah, had other plans for him. She believed that Newton should return to Worcester and learn the ways of a respected landowner. Hannah was determined that her eldest son would manage her affairs and state. Newton, although taken away from school, soon demonstrated that he had no talent or interest in state and management. Henry Stokes, the headmaster of King's School, recognized Newton's exceptional potential and was impressed by his creation and thirst for knowledge. He believed that the best way for Newton to secure and improve his future prospect was by preparing him for university education. Stokes closely monitored Newton's progress and decided to intervene on his behalf. He visited Hannah, Newton's mother, at Worcester and made an effort to make her understand the extraordinary abilities of her son. Stokes even offered to waive the 40 shilling fee that was required from students living more than a mile away from Grantham, a considerable sacrifice for someone of modest means. However, Hannah, who valued land above all issue due to her lack of education, initially struggled to comprehend Newton's intellectual pursuit and the importance of higher education for him. Seeking guidance, she turned to her trusted brother, William Oscoff, for advice. To Hannah's surprise, William also recommended that Newton should return to school. Eventually, with some reluctance, Hannah gave her consent, allowing Newton to continue his education at King's School. This decision marked a significant turning point in Newton's life as it paved the way for his academic journey and the pursuit of his scientific and intellectual endeavors. At the age of 17, Newton made a return at King's School in Grantham in 1660 to resume and complete his school education. During this time, he lived with Henry Stokes, who served as the headmaster of the school. Stokes played a significant role in shaping Newton's intellectual development during this crucial period. Under the guidance and mentorship of Stokes, Newton's mind was nurtured and his potential as a future scientist began to flourish. After his return to King's School, Newton dedicated himself to his studies and made remarkable progress. In 1661, at the age of 18, he successfully completed his school education, marking an important milestone in his academic journey. The foundation laid during his time at King's School would serve as a launching pad for Newton's future achievement in the fields of mathematics, physics, and astronomy. On June 5, 1661, Newton enrolled at Trinity College, Cambridge, marking the beginning of his university education. Despite being older than most of his fellow students, Newton chose to enter a seizure, a position that involved a work-study arrangement. As a seizure, Newton received financial assistance to cover his college expenses in exchange for performing certain duties, such as serving other students. The role of seizure was typically associated with students from less privileged backgrounds, but there is some ambiguity regarding Newton's specific position. Contrary to the usual association with students of similar backgrounds, Newton seemed to socialize more with students from higher social classes. Some reports suggest that Newton may have had Humphrey Babington, a distant relative and a fellow of Trinity, as his patron, which could explain his association with students from a higher social class. This interpretation suggests that Newton's decision to become a seizure may not have been due to financial necessity imposed by his mother. Instead, it could have been a deliberate choice that allowed him to interact with influential individuals and pursue his studies without unnecessary hardship. Newton's interest in mathematics was sparked during his early years at Cambridge University. In 1663, he purchased an astronomy book at a fair but found himself unable to comprehend the mathematical aspect of it. This realization led him to study mathematics more seriously. Recognizing his lack of knowledge in certain areas, Newton turned to a trigonometry book but realized that he needed a foundation in geometry to fully grasp the subject. As a result, he decided to study Euclid's Elements, a renowned book of mathematics, in edition edited by Isaac Barrow, who was his mathematics professor at Cambridge. Newton's engagement with Euclid's Elements was a crucial step in his mathematical education. It provided him with a solid grounding in geometry, which later became instrumental in his groundbreaking discoveries and contribution to mathematics and physics. There is no evidence or any mention of guiding hand for Newton. It leads to the belief that Newton alone was responsible for his mathematical education. In 1664, Newton was appointed as a fellow at Trinity College. This coincides with the period when Newton delved deeply into his mathematical studies. Despite some indication that his progress may not have been outstanding, Newton successfully passed the necessary scholarship examination and was elected as a scholar on April 28, 1664. This promotion from the position of Caesar to a scholar granted him privileges such as a free meals provided by the college and a regular stipend. Importantly, it also allowed him to continue his studies at Trinity in pursuit of his master's degree. Finally, at the age of 22, Newton achieved his bachelor's degree in the spring of 1665. During the temporary closure of the university due to the Great Plague, Newton returned to his home in Woolsthorpe, Lincolnshire in the summer of 1665. It was during this period, which lasted less than 2 years, that he made groundbreaking advancements in mathematics, optics, physics, and astronomy. While in isolation at home, Newton laid the foundations for a differential and integral calculus, anticipating its independent discovery by the renowned German mathematician Leibniz. Newton referred to his method as the method of fluxion, based on his profound realization that the integration of a function is the inverse procedure of differentiation. By taking differentiation as the fundamental operation, Newton developed systematic analytical technique that unified various previously separate methods used to solve seemingly unrelated problems such as determining areas, tangents, curved lengths, and the extrema of function. Additionally, he discovered the generalized binomial theorem and began developing mathematical theory that would later evolve into infinitesimal calculus, optics, and the law of gravitation. In 1667, Newton returned to Cambridge as a minor fellow of Trinity College. As a fellow, he was required to ordain as a priest, which Newton sought to avoid due to his unorthodox belief. Fortunately, there was no immediate deadline for ordination, allowing him to postpone it indefinitely. However, the issue became more pressing when Newton was elected to the prestigious Lucasian chair in 1669. Shortly after receiving his master's degree at the age of 25, Newton was granted a significant fellowship in the July 1668, which granted him the privilege of dining at the fellows' table. In July 1669, Isaac Barrow, who held the Lucasian professor at Cambridge since 1663, took steps to ensure that Newton's remarkable mathematical achievement would gain recognition. Barrow sent Newton's work titled De Analysi to John Collins, an English mathematician based in London, in order to make Newton's mathematical contribution known to the wider world. Newton's work has been acknowledged as a significant advancement in all branches of mathematics that were being pursued at the time. In 1669, Barrow stepped down from the Lucasian chair and recommended Newton, who was only 27 years old at that time, as his successor. The position required ordination as a priest for Fellow of Cambridge or Oxford, but the terms of the Lucasian professor allowed exemption from active church involvement to dedicate more time to scientific pursuit. Newton made the case that this exemption should apply to him, and Charles II, whose approval was necessary, accepted his argument. This resolved the potential conflict between Newton's religious belief and the requirements of Anglican orthodoxy. As the Lucasian professor, Newton's initial focus of study and literature was on optics, a field that fascinated him. During the 2 years of plague, he made a groundbreaking discovery that challenged the prevailing belief of his time. While conducting an experiment, Newton passed a thin beam of sunlight through a glass prism and observed the formation of spectrum consisting of 7 distinct colors. This observation led him to conclude that white light was not a simple entity as previously thought, but rather a combination of different colors. This insight was a significant departure from the long-held belief rooted in Aristotle's teaching that white light was fundamental and individual. Newton's discovery of the spectrum and his subsequent exploration of chromatic aberration in telescope lenses provided compelling evidence for his new understanding of light. Through a series of meticulously designed experiments conducted over several years, Newton delved deeper into the phenomenon of color, uncovering measurable and mathematical patterns. His investigation revealed that white light, far from being a single entity, consisted of a diverse combination of colored rays with infinite variation. This revelation was exemplified in a natural occurrence such as rainbows and spectrums. Newton recognized that each individual ray of light could be characterized by an angle at which it was refracted upon entering or exiting a transparent medium. To further support his findings, Newton explored the phenomenon of interference colors exhibited by thin films such as those formed by oil on water or soap bubbles. Employing a precise technique of exceptional accuracy, he developed a method to measure the thickness of these films. By closely studying the interference colors and relating them to the thickness of the films, Newton expanded his understanding of light and its behavior, unveiling the intricate relationship between the physical properties of materials and the colors they produce. Newton's investigation led him to propose a groundbreaking theory. White light was not a singular entity, but rather a composite of numerous types of rays, each refracted at slightly different angles. Furthermore, he posited that each distinct type of ray corresponded to a specific spectral color. In other words, the various colors observed in the spectrum were the result of the separation and refraction of these different types of rays. This idea revolutionized the understanding of light and color, challenging the prevailing notion that white light was individual and fundamental. Newton's theory not only explained the phenomenon of color in a new light, but also laid the foundation for further exploration into the nature of light and its interaction with matter. Indeed, as a result of his studies on the nature of light and color, Newton arrived at the mistaken belief that refracting telescope would inevitably suffer from chromatic aberration, a phenomenon in which different colors of light was not focused at the same point, leading to blurred and distorted images. To overcome this perceived limitation, Newton devised an alternative design known as the reflecting telescope. In 1672, Newton constructed his own reflecting telescope, which employed a curved mirror to gather and focus light instead of refracting lenses. By eliminating the need of lenses, Newton aimed to eliminate chromatic aberration and produce clearer, sharper images. This telescope, known as Newtonian telescope, marked a significant advancement in astronomical observation and became one of Newton's notable contributions to the fields of optics. It is important to note that although Newton's belief about the inherent chromatic aberration in refracting lenses was later proven incorrect, his invention of the reflecting telescope played a crucial role in the development of astronomical instruments and remains widely used in modern telescope design. At the age of 29, Newton's significant contribution to science and optics led to his election as a Fellow of the Royal Society. As part of his affiliation, he donated a reflecting telescope, which further solidified his reputation as a skilled inventor and scientist. In the same year, Newton published his first scientific paper titled New Theory About Light and Colors in the prestigious journal Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society. Although Newton's paper was generally well received, it faced criticism from prominent figures with the scientific community, most notably Robert Hooke, the curator of experiments at the Royal Society, and Christian Huygens, the renowned mathematician. They expressed their objection and voiced their disagreement with Newton's idea. This criticism sparked a continuous dispute between Newton and Hooke. The two engaged in a heated exchange of letters and public exchanges, while each defending their respective theories and challenging the other's view. The conflict between Newton and Hooke continued for several years and extended to the other areas of scientific inquiry as well. Despite the controversy and clashes with Hooke, Newton's groundbreaking work on light and color laid the foundation for the field of optics and ultimately solidified his status as one of the most influential scientists in history. According to reports, Newton's relationship with his mother was characterized by bitterness even in his later life. Having grown up without the love and care of a mother, he harbored anger and resentment towards women, which may have influenced his attitude towards them throughout his life. It is worth noting that there is no evidence of romantic relationship or expression of love in Newton's life. Newton's vast array of work encompassed various subjects, but his most significant achievement lies in the fields of physics and celestial mechanics, notably with his groundbreaking theory of universal gravitation. As early as 1666, Newton had developed initial version of his renowned three laws of motion. During this time, he had already discovered the law governing the centrifugal force acting on a body moving uniformly along a circular path. However, he had yet to grasp a complete understanding of the mechanics underlying circular motion. Newton's discovery of gravity is famously attributed to an event involving an apple falling from a tree. According to the popular account, Newton observed an apple falling and wondered why it fell straight down instead of moving sideways or upwards. This curiosity led him to investigate the nature of gravity and develop his theory. In reality, Newton's discovery of gravity was a result of years of meticulous study and experimentation. He built upon the works of previous scientists such as Galileo Galilei and Johannes Kepler, who had made significant contributions to the understanding of motion and celestial mechanics. Newton formulated his theory of universal gravitation, which states that every object in the universe attracts every other object with a force that is directly proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. He published his groundbreaking working Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy in 1687, where he explained the laws of motion and the theory of gravity. Newton's theory of gravity provided an unified explanation for a wide range of celestial and terrestrial phenomena. It revolutionized our understanding of the nature world and laid the foundation of classical physics. In accordance with Newton's theory, the reason a planet does not drift away from the sun is due to the presence of an unnoticed gravitational force exerted between the planet, the sun, and the moon. This force acts persistently, drawing the planet back towards the sun. During the period from 1689 to 1690, Newton served as a member of the Parliament of England, having been elected to the position. At the age of 50, Newton experienced his second nervous breakdown. Newton's second nervous breakdown occurred in 1693 when he was around the age of 50. The exact details and causes of his breakdown are not extensively documented, but it is believed to have been a long period of intense mental and emotional distress for him. During this time, Newton faced various personal and professional challenges. He was heavily involved in his work as the Master of the Mint, a position he held since 1699, which involved significant responsibilities and pressure. Additionally, Newton's studies and scientific pursuit demanded tremendous intellectual focus and dedication. The strength of his work, combined with his introverted nature and perfectionist tendencies, have been contributed to his mental and emotional struggles. Newton was known to be highly self-critical and driven, constantly pushing himself to achieve new breakthroughs in his scientific research. The breakdown manifested as a period of intense anxiety, depression, and withdrawal from social interaction. Newton isolated himself from others and became increasingly reclusive, dedicating most of his time to his solitary scientific endeavors. It is reported that he spent days and nights working obsessively on his studies, often neglecting his health and personal well-being. Newton's nervous breakdown had a significant impact on his life and productivity. It disrupted his work and scientific progress as he struggled with bouts of despair and loss of motivation. However, he eventually recovered from this breakdown and continued his scientific pursuit, making notable contributions in various fields. It is important to note that mental health understanding and support during Newton's time were significantly different from today. While Newton's nervous breakdown was a challenging period in his life, he was able to overcome it and continued his remarkable contribution to science and mathematics. After his time at Cambridge, Newton made the decision to relocate to London and assume a government position. This move proved to be a turning point in his life as it brought him both influence and prosperity. In 1696, he was appointed as the Warden of the Royal Mint. While some might view such a position merely as a recognition of Newton's scientific accomplishment, he approached it with great dedication and made significant contribution to the Mint's operation. Newton took his responsibilities seriously and actively worked to improve the efficiency and integrity of the Mint. During his tenure as Warden, Newton implemented various reforms to combat counterfeiting and stabilize the currency. He played a key role in reorganizing the Mint's procedures, introducing new coinage design, and enforcing stricter measures against fraud. His meticulous attention to detail and scientific mindset greatly benefited the Mint's operation and reputation. In 1701, Newton was elected as a member of the Parliament of England again. After this time, Newton became a very rich man. In 1703, at the age of 60, Newton was elected as the president of the Royal Society. In a manuscript written in 1704, Newton described his attempts to extract scientific information from the Bibles, and he estimated that the world would end no earlier than 2060. In 1705, when he was 62 years old, Sir Isaac Newton received the honor of knighthood from Queen Anne. This prestigious recognition bestowed upon the title of Sir, making him Sir Isaac Newton. It is worth noting that Newton was the second scientist to be knighted, following in the footsteps of Sir Francis Bacon, who was knighted in 1603. Sir Isaac Newton had a deep interest in alchemy, which was a philosophical and proto-scientific disciple that aimed to transfer base metals into noble metals, such as gold, and discovered the philosopher's stones that would grant immortality. Newton's engagement with alchemy was influenced by the prevailing belief and practice of his time. Newton's alchemical pursuits were highly secretive, and he devoted significant time and effort to alchemical experiments and writing throughout his life. He conducted experiments involving chemical reactions, distillation, and purification processes, seeking to uncover the hidden properties of substances and understand their transformational properties. It is important to note that Newton's alchemical endeavors were distinct from his groundbreaking scientific work. While his alchemical pursuit did not yield the desired results, they provided him with valuable insights into the nature of matter and chemical reactions, which may have indirectly influenced his scientific theories. In later years, Newton became more reluctant to publicly discuss his alchemical endeavors as he focused more on his scientific pursuit and established his reputation in the scientific community. Nevertheless, his interest in alchemy highlights the interconnection of scientific, mystical, and philosophical pursuit during the time in which he lived. Newton's religious views were indeed distinct from those of Roman Catholic, and he had his own unique perspective on Christianity. He saw God as the ultimate creator, whose existence was undeniable in the face of the magnificence of the entire universe. Despite being considered an unorthodox Christian, Newton maintained a deep religious conviction. Interestingly, Newton dedicated more of his written works to biblical interpretation of scripture and occult studies than to science and mathematics. He privately held reservation about Trinitarianism, a central tenet of traditional Christianity that posed the existence of three distinct persons in one God. However, Newton concealed his dissent for fear of facing accusation of rejecting holy orders. In the final decades of his life, Newton dedicated himself to revising his major works, refining his studies of ancient history, and defending his idea against critics. He also fulfilled his responsibilities as the president of the Royal Society. Known for his modesty, shyness, and simple lifestyle, Newton was deeply affected by criticism and opposition, harboring resentment and displaying harshness towards his enemies while being generous to his friends. In his role in government and the Royal Society, he demonstrated strong administrative skills. During his later years, Newton resided at Cranberry Park near Winchester with his niece Catherine Conduit and her husband John Conduit, who served as his assistants as a royalman. Newton had gained immense fame throughout Europe, and his scientific discoveries remained unchallenged. He had also acquired considerable wealth, making wise investment and generously supporting charitable causes. However, as Newton delved into peculiar scientific inquiries and grappled with a combination of pride, insecurities, and eccentricities, even some of his close friends expressed concern about his mental stability. Despite these concerns, Newton's contribution to science and his lasting legacy were undeniable. At the age of 84, Newton passed away peacefully in his sleep on March 31, 1727 in London. He was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey, a place of honor befitting his remarkable contribution to science. In his final years, Newton has generously distributed a significant portion of his estate to his relatives, leading to his passing without leaving a will. Thank you.